Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The third session of the 13th Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference National Committee opened in Beijing today.
Chairman of the National Committee, Wang Yang, said mechanisms in Hong Kong in relation to the Constitution and the Basic Law need to be improved. Sharon Tang reports.
After 2 months of delay due to the COVID-19 pandemic, President Xi Jinping and Chinese leaders attended the opening of the annual session of the CPPCC at the Great Hall of the People this afternoon. Some 2,000 delegates present, as well as representatives on stage, put on masks except for top state leaders sitting in 2 front rows. They observed a minute of silence for those who have lost their lives during the pandemic. CPPCC National Committee Chairman Wang Yang then delivered his work report. We support Hong Kong CPPCC members voicing out to stop violence and restore social order, he said. Wang added that Beijing has made stern statements on the U.S. passage of bills on so-called Hong Kong and Xinjiang matters. Looking forward, Wang said Hong Kong and Macau CPPCC members should bear the responsibility to improve any mechanisms in the SARs that are relevant to the Constitution and the Basic Law. Meanwhile, 6 reporters from Hong Kong and Macau who will be covering the NPC event at the Great Hall of the People tomorrow must pass their coronavirus tests at hotels tonight.
8 new imported COVID-19 cases were added to Hong Kong's count today, bringing the overall number of infections to 1,062.
As the city's infection rate slows to a crawl, more public facilities like swimming pools reopened, but not without disease prevention measures, as Kena Chu explains.
The city's 8 new coronavirus patients are all returnees from Pakistan aboard flight QR818.
They are sitting not exactly next to each other, but some of them are sitting quite close to each other within a few rows because they are family members. We cannot assess the risk of in-flight transmission at the present moment, but according to observation in the past few months, this phenomenon has not been occurred in Hong Kong.
Among them are a 56-year-old man and his 2 sons who paid a family visit to Pakistan at the end of January. That's on top of another family cluster involving 3 females aged 11 to 37, all of whom are asymptomatic. The oldest of the newly emerging patients is a 73-year-old woman, a family member of 2 other coronavirus carriers detected earlier. She experienced a fever and cough prior to her diagnosis. So far, more than 1,020 recovered patients have been discharged from hospital. 1 person remains in critical condition. The new infections come during the government's latest plan to ease some coronavirus rules, including the reopening of 33 public swimming pools today. Among those was the Lai Chi Kok Park swimming pool, which resumed operations but with limited service. Swimmers prior to entering the facility were required to wear face masks and undergo temperature checks. To encourage social distancing, not all shower stalls were put in use. Kena Chu, TVB News.
2 new COVID-19 cases were registered on the Chinese mainland yesterday. One of them is an imported infection. The other case was reported in Shanghai. The patient, a Wuhan resident, tested coronavirus-free on the 8th. 3 days later, she accompanied her husband to a Shanghai hospital and was diagnosed with COVID-19 on Wednesday. On Sunday, another patient was also reported to have traveled from Hubei province to Shanghai before diagnosis.
Elsewhere in Asia, Japan is lifting a state of emergency in Osaka, Kyoto and Hyogo, where infections of the coronavirus are slowing. The measure, however, will remain in place in Tokyo and Hokkaido. People there are being asked not to make any non-essential outings. A state of emergency for 39 other prefectures was cancelled last week before its deadline of May the 31st. Also in Japan, Tokyo's top prosecutor tendered his resignation. Hiromu Kurokawa is leaving his post after gambling with acquaintances flouting social distancing recommendations. Kurokawa is a close ally of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. and admitted to playing mahjong for money. His resignation will be approved at a cabinet meeting on Friday. Well, the UK government plans to have a test, track and trace programme for COVID-19 in place by June the 1st. This follows heavy criticism over its lack of a national system to handle the pandemic.
Meanwhile, other European countries are hoping to kickstart their tourism season. Leslie Tang has more.
The UK government has come under fire for failing to have a national system in place to battle its COVID-19 crisis. Now, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is pledging a June 1st rollout of a test, track and trace program. Being able to track contacts is considered a pivotal point to further ease lockdown restrictions. With more than 35,000 fatalities, the UK has the second highest COVID-19 death toll in the world. But it was fun in the sun for these beachgoers on the hottest day of the year.
Just come outside, enjoy yourself, but obviously just respect the government's advice and just keep the 2 metre distance.
But other UK authorities are at odds with Johnson's directions that it's okay to visit beaches and countryside spots.
We're saying to people, stay safe, please don't come, because we're not going to be able to guarantee your safety if you can't socially distance.
Meanwhile, Russia has reported its lowest rise of new virus cases in the last 3 days. But the situation is still grim, with cases topping 300,000, the second highest number of infections in the world. Its relatively low death toll has raised questions about whether the government is underreporting virus fatalities. But promising news in France. There's been no jump in the daily rate of new infections since the country relaxed its lockdown 10 days ago. The government is also promising salary bumps for health workers. Meanwhile, Greece has announced its tourist season will begin on June 15th. It will start with the opening of seasonal hotels and the arrival of foreign visitors. International flights will begin flying directly to holiday destinations from July 1st. Visitors will be tested, and a list of greenlit countries will be announced before the end of May. Leslie Tang, TVB News.
A senior official at the World Health Organization is warning that an end to U.S. funding for the UN Health Agency will have serious consequences for some of the poorest in the world. So far, U.S. President Donald Trump has only ordered a pause, but has threatened to quit the health body over accusations it was soft on China in the initial stage of the pandemic.
Head of the WHO's Health Emergencies Program, Michael Ryan, responded to questions about a letter sent by US President Donald Trump to the UN agency threatening an end, for good, funding from the United States. The Trump administration accuses the World Health Body of being slow in its initial response to the coronavirus pandemic and failing to demand that China be upfront and transparent about the extent of its outbreak back in January. Trump has warned that unless the WHO reforms and shows it's truly an independent body free from Chinese influence, American funds will be withdrawn. The US is the largest donor to the WHO. Ryan conceded that the withdrawal of American funds would be a big blow.
Much of the US funding that reaches us here actually goes directly out in the emergencies program to humanitarian health operations all over the world. And we'll obviously have to work with other partners to ensure that those funds can still flow. So this is going to be a major implication for delivering essential health services to some of the most vulnerable people in the world. And we trust that other donors will, if necessary, step in to fill that gap.
Trump has already ordered a pause in US funding to the WHO, which totaled nearly $900 million to the budget for 2018-2019. The WHO has pledged it will conduct a review into its response to the pandemic.
Welcome back to TVB News. A judge has overturned an electoral officer's decision which barred ousted lawmaker Lau Siu-lai from running in a alleged by-election in 2018.
And Chan Ho-yan was deemed not duly elected in the West Kowloon geographical constituency. Jackie Lin reports.
Following the Lechko oath-taking saga back in 2016, Pan-Democrat Lau Siu-lai was stripped of her lawmaker status the following year. In her attempt to run in the 2018 Kowloon West by-election, her nomination was invalidated by returning officer Franco Kwok. Lau filed an election petition over the case. In the ruling, Judge Anderson Chow said the electoral officer had failed or refused to give Lau a proper opportunity to respond to the materials that led to the decision. Having concluded Lau as wrongfully disqualified, the court also found pro-Beijing lawmaker Chan Ho-yan, who won the by-election, as unduly elected. The Pan-Democrat worries returning officers could still subjectively disqualify candidates in the coming Lechko election.
He also thinks that maybe the electoral officer have the right to subjectively determine whether I am sincerely pro basic law. So I think it is just a bitter victory and can do nothing or just seldom to very little to protect our legal right and political right.
Meanwhile, unseated lawmaker Chan Ho-yan says she will seek legal advice before deciding whether to appeal. Lawmaker Chan Ho-yan and returning officer Franco Kwok would need to shoulder the cost of the petition's proceedings. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The Court of Appeal ruled in favor of a police group's appeal to ban the public inspection of election registries to a limited extent. The court acknowledged the privacy concerns of the Junior Police Officers Association, but it noted current laws mandated a full disclosure of electors' personal details for public scrutiny. The court also upheld the interim injunction banning public access to the electoral registries. Election candidates, media workers, and political parties are exempt from the injunction. To minimize disruption to the Lechko election in September, the court will hear from more stakeholders next Wednesday.
A subcontractor in the scandal-hit Hung Hom Station extension project has filed an application for a judicial review. This comes days after a government-appointed commission of inquiry released its final report on the construction scandal. Managing Director of China Technology, Jason Poon, also the whistleblower who brought to light that steel bars had been cut short, is asking the court to overturn the report's findings. In a writ filed today, China Technology claims the report did not go into the truth behind the cutting short of the steel bars. It also questioned whether members of the Commission of Inquiry had turned a blind eye to the contractor Leighton Asia's violation of contract. Overseas again, at least 24 people were killed when a powerful cyclone ripped through the densely populated coastal India and Bangladesh. The powerful winds blew off roofs, uprooted trees, and whipped up waves that swallowed embankments and bridges, leaving entire villages without access to fresh water, electricity, and communications. Cyclone Amphan was packing gusts of up to 190 kilometers per hour. Officials warn that relief and repair work will be made harder by the coronavirus, which has already sapped the healthcare system in the region. Most of the deaths were due to collapse of walls, drowning, and falling trees in both countries.
The 2020 Shaw Prize winners were unveiled today. 6 scientists in 3 areas have been awarded for their scientific accomplishments. Dong Yao-nie has more about the laureates and their contributions.
The Shaw Prize, often dubbed as the Nobel of the East, honors scientists who made profound contributions. This year, 6 scholars from 4 countries have been recognized. Roger D. Blandford at Stanford University in the United States won the Shaw Prize in astronomy. He has made foundational theoretical breakthrough in astrophysical matters such as supermassive black holes. The Shaw Prize in Life Science and Medicine is shared by Gero Missenbach from Oxford University and 2 German scientists, Peter Hagemann and Georg Nagel. They have been praised for developing optogenetics, a revolutionary technology that allows scientists to control and trace complex neural motions with light. Chicago-based Alexander Bailenson and David Kostan from Israel are the winners for the category of mathematical sciences. They have been awarded for their studies in representation theory and other fields.
Each prize consists of a medal, a certificate, and a monetary award of $1.2 million.
Due to the coronavirus epidemic, the award presentation ceremony will be postponed to 2021, the first time since the prize's establishment in 2002. Dong Yaonie, TVB News.
An Italian woman has been identified as the lucky winner of an oil painting by Pablo Picasso that's worth $1.1 million. Claudio Borgogne's winning charity raffle ticket was picked out in an electronic draw at the auction house Christie's in Paris. The work of art is named Nature Morte, or Still Life. More than 51,000 raffle tickets were sold for about $100 each. Proceeds will help provide water for villagers in Madagascar and Cameroon. And that is the news.
Thanks for watching.
Good night.
Bye for now.